Olá pessoal, nesse vídeo a gente vai falar sobre DevEx, DevExperience. Então a AWS teve aí várias novidades legais, divulgação aí de ferramentas que facilitam a vida do desenvolvedor. Vamos lá. A primeira delas é o Mendix, né, uma aplicação da Siemens em parceria aí com a AWS. O Mendix é uma plataforma ali de desenvolvimento low code para aplicações web, mobile, né? É uma aplicação que já está no mercado aí já há alguns anos, mas teve uma divulgação muito forte ali no evento, né? O CEO da Siemens apresentou o produto na palestra, ali no palco principal do evento, na palestra do CEO da AWS. Então, foi bastante representativa ali a participação dele e a divulgação do Mendix no evento. A gente teve o lançamento aí do Amazon Code Catalyst, que é um produto novo, muito interessante. O Amazon Code Whisperer, também bem bacana. A gente vai olhar aqui cada um deles no detalhe. O Application Composer, então são três novos produtos é, que vão trazer muita facilidade para o desenvolvedor no dia a dia. E melhorias ali também no AppSync e no Amplify. Então, antes da gente olhar cada um desses itens, né, eu vou passar aqui rapidamente pelos produtos que já existiam para a Dev Experience na AWS, que já existem hoje e já existiam antes do evento ali. Então, desde lá do início do ciclo de vida do desenvolvimento, né, que o desenvolvedor vai começar a fazer o seu desenvolvimento. Tem ali o Cloud9, IDEA Toolkits, SDKs, etc., que apoiam ali no desenvolvimento desde o início. Para a gestão ali do código-fonte, dos artefatos, tem o Code Commit e o Code Artifact. Para a gestão de build, o Code Build. Para deploy, o Code Deploy. Para pipeline, Code Pipeline. E para monitoramento, várias aplicações ali, X-Ray, CloudWatch, Grafana, etc. E para a parte de IAC ali, CloudFormation, CDK e SAM, né? Então, esse era o parque tecnológico que existia ali dentro da vice-presidência de Dev Experience da AWS. E agora a AWS fez um bom upgrade ali, né, com produtos que são bastante relevantes e com certeza vai dar uma melhorada, um salto muito bom ali de experiência para o desenvolvedor. Então, bora lá conferir cada um deles. Então, aqui a gente tem o Mendix, né, o vídeo aqui do CEO da Siemens apresentando o produto no palco principal da AWS, na palestra do CEO da AWS. Vamos conferir.
What's the third step? The third step is not only we put software into the cloud, you should use it. Second one, we make OTA available, you should harvest this. The third step, we need to make it easier and faster for everyone to use it. How? For this, we use the low-code, no-code capability from Mendix, which is running on AWS. Mendix is the #1 low-code solution with over 200,000 developers, and it's available on the AWS marketplace. Mendix enables anyone to build any application on any business problems, from mission-critical solutions to actually digital experiences, from banking, insurance, retail, and public sector. You can develop using Mendix 10 times faster, using 70% less resources. There's a wide range of actually AWS connectors which are easy to be utilized, which makes it easy to utilize the AWS services like Amazon DynamoDB or Amazon Recognition. So if you can just check it out, I'm sure it can help you.
Pois é, promete aqui desenvolvimento 10 vezes mais rápido, utilizando 70% menos recursos. Né? Já tem mais de 200 mil desenvolvedores utilizando. E acho que é uma tendência bem forte aí mesmo, esse mercado de low code. Né? Tem uma pesquisa ali do Gartner apontando que em 2024, 65% dos desenvolvedores do mundo estarão utilizando alguma solução low code no dia a dia. Agora nós vamos falar aqui sobre o Code Catalyst. Code Catalyst é uma aplicação bem completa ali para o desenvolvimento de software no dia a dia, que ela tem uma série de funcionalidades. Então, você pode criar seu projeto, escolher um template para acelerar o seu desenvolvimento. Depois, você tem os conectores ali com o repositório, né, GitHub, por exemplo. Então, você tem acesso a todas as funcionalidades do GitHub dentro ali do Code Catalyst. Tem as issues, tem controle de pull requests, etc. Então ele tem toda a parte ali de colaboração, né, entre os vários desenvolvedores e tem as integrações com as IDEs, com as principais IDEs, né? Então o IntelliJ, por exemplo, tem um plugin ali do Code Catalyst que você acessa todas as funcionalidades do Code Catalyst dentro do próprio IntelliJ. É bem interessante. Vamos conferir.
Let me walk you through the product, if that's okay. And then we have a great demo coming up. So first and foremost, it's an integrated experience out of the box. It's got, if you didn't catch this morning, it has source repositories, an issue tracker, Kanban board for issues, continuous integration and build infrastructure. It has dashboards, reports. All this creates like a seamless end-to-end experience, so you don't have to switch between different tools and also hope your builds are still running in the background. We manage it. It's managed by AWS. It's like an application for developers. We'll keep it available and secure so you can spend your time building your products. And this is actually an important point. It works across multiple AWS account and IAM roles seamlessly. That's like native in the product. Now, it integrates with popular tools because we want it to be flexible to fit your needs. We designed it to work with the tools you already use. Like lots of people like Jira for issues. Some people don't. I think it's cool. And you could just keep doing that. It's integrated in. It also, if you prefer GitHub for your source repository, you could do that. Your choice of IDE, we made it really open and as integrated as possible with these other services you already like. And it should have everything you need to plan, code, build, test, and deploy applications in a streamlined integrated experience. So let me share like 3 capabilities that really jump out in this product, 3 features that really jump out. The first is project blueprints. Did you see blueprints this morning, I hope? Pretty cool? Okay, so when you're starting a new project, you know how there's lots to set up? You want to scaffold your app code, get your repos set up, configure the right services and roles, configure your pipelines, and there's just a lot of fine-grained communication. So blueprints set all of that up for you so your team is ready to start working. We launched with 14, actually I think we launched with 15 blueprints now, and we have many more planned. We're very excited about that. The second thing is manage CI/CD pipelines. So Code Catalyst doesn't just generate pipelines from you from a blueprint, you can also create your own. You can enhance an existing pipeline. You can work with a YAML editor, or we have a visual editor, which is really cool with a whole bunch of actions in there. And right away at launch today, we also support all of GitHub Actions, which is really exciting. So you can use GitHub Actions in your pipelines. And so you could build the infrastructure you want to operate, operate your team lifecycle the way you want to see, the way you see fit, and we'll keep it secure, we'll scale it, we'll run it all for you. Okay, dev environments. I had this experience a couple years ago where I was in a job and I had to install a new version of Ruby and my laptop was locked down and I couldn't do it. So that feeling, that challenge, paper cut, that friction of having to configure local dev machine is a real pain. Dev environments give you development environments in the cloud that are automatically configured for the project and branch that you're working on. They'll connect to a local IDE. So we have IntelliJ has got a great IDE, and we've integrated with that at launch. We also support VS Code. And it makes it really easy to switch between projects. You can drop into a code branch you've never worked for. You can work in a language you're not even that familiar with. Everything can be provisioned. You can just work in that one little area you want to work without doing that local machine configuration. So all of this is about giving you that great flow. You can start the right way with blueprints. You can set up your project in minutes. The CI/CD is all ready. Fully managed workflows. You can drop anywhere into the code base and start problem solving. It's really exciting to invite your team members in and start working and get some of the end state that you may have read about in Emily's book about getting great DevOps. So with that, let's do a demo. Sound good?
I would love that.
Okay. Let's bring up Kyle Seaman from the product team. The product team, come on out, Kyle. I've got to hand it to them. This product team has been working really hard for a long period of time. Kyle, come on out. All right. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Y'all have been working on this for a while, and you ready to do a good demo today?
We're going to see what we can do. Yeah.
Okay, bring it on.
All right. Well, so thank you both. And thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm really excited to give you a first look at Code Catalyst. We're going to start with spaces. Code Catalyst space is where you group your projects, you bring them together. It defines the AWS region for your data. It also facilitates collaboration between you and your team, kind of bring it all into one spot. So let's go ahead and add a new project to this space. So Adam mentioned blueprints, but you have another option. You can start from scratch if you want, enter a name, and you're on your way. Or you can use these blueprints. Think of blueprints as template solutions or source code. If those came with everything you need to run, build, and deploy real apps on AWS. So it's not just the example code that they're giving you source repositories, pre-configured workflows, integrated development environments, everything your team needs not just to deploy, but also iterate, expand, build, and make it your own. We support popular architectures at launch, containers, serverless. And then we've worked with the community. We've brought in some of our popular open source AWS solutions, such as the serverless image handler or a video on demand. So we're trying to give a lot of variety for teams to kind of kick off their work quickly. So let's take a look at some Java examples. We'll see we've got a few here, and we'll take the to-do web application. Looking at the details, we'll see it has a CloudFront front end. It's backed by Dynamo, a pretty nice service, but we don't have to do all the work of actually configuring that. The blueprint's going to do that for us. So blueprints are dynamic. Based on the parameters that you configure and customize, you can make it exactly what you need, either to your team's need or your preferences. So we can see here that this one's actually using TypeScript by default. And then over on the right, we'll see a preview where, as we expect in the Lambda folder, we have multiple TypeScript files. If I choose Java, it's going to regenerate the code. It'll provide a preview, but it's actually putting together the new code based on these parameters. I have some other options like our CDK programming language, or you can name variables and things like that. And the last step for here, what we'll do is we're going to add an IAM role to from a previously associated AWS account. This will be assumed by our workflows and used to actually take this project code and actually push it into that associated AWS account. And with that, we can create our project. So what this is doing is now taking all that configuration, downloading that code, seeding your first source repository. It's even going to kick off the first workflow, which we'll take a look at here in a moment. And like that, we're created. So this is the project overview. We have members. They've already been added, so they can start accessing and using it. We see our README, which has been customized based on the blueprint configuration. On the left, we see issues. We see code, which we'll be exploring soon. Dev environments. We have workflows, compute and secrets. Everything in one spot. Adam mentioned test reports. So if we peek into the source repository, as you expect, it's a source repository. It's integrated. It works. It has the Java code as we expected. You'll also notice a .code catalyst file. This is defining our workflow, and this particular blueprint has one at start. So looking at that, we'll see that this is triggering on pushes to main. And this blueprint actually comes with a pretty complex multi-stage one that's already running because of that first push that we made. So when we click into that, we'll see that it has, starting from the workflow source, it's then going to run a couple stages. It's going to build our back end. It's going to run some tests, CDK bootstrap that, and then it'll do the deploy before it moves on to actually doing the front end, build and push and test. So that's a quick look at creating your first project using blueprints.
Cool. That was pretty cool. So if I got that right, that first blueprint in the Lambda tier, you had a choice of TypeScript, Python, or Java, and
that's
you
right.
picked Java, and it generated a different code for the project?
Yeah, that's right. It'll totally generate based on your inputs. We have different, you'll see another example where we're using different hosting providers, and it'll regen the code exactly for you.
And you also had a choice of region, account, and role in there of where you're going to deploy to also, because it's aware of that?
Yeah, so what's really cool about Code Catalyst is we exist at CodeCatalyst.aws, and you can deploy to any AWS account in any region, giving a lot of flexibility. We hear this feedback for tool chains, and I want to work across lots of accounts, development accounts. So yeah, you can do that.
Okay, you got some more stuff you want to share?
Yeah, so what I want to show, last thing, and then, is looking at collaboration and working with your team inside of Code Catalyst. So we'll jump into a project. This is based on our single-page application blueprint, which is using, or it's been configured to use Amplify hosting, and it's been customized to be the mock front end for our new website. So we see members are here. As I'd mentioned previously, we see our source repository, README. We see some workflow runs. If we click into this one, this is an on push to main. We'll see that this ran a little earlier. It had two stages, a build and test, and then a deploy. We can actually click into the View app, and this is going to open up our hosted site. So Quackabot is our product, fastest way to find your code. It's not real. We'll go back to Code Catalyst, and we'll show you what we can do to make a little change. So I can go back to the overview. We'll see that we have pull requests, we have dev environments, we have issues. So we can click into the issue board. What's really cool, and I mentioned this, comes built in with a Kanban board. You can drag and drop your issues, as your day goes along. You can also create custom views. Maybe your team wants to run stand-up using swim lanes based on features or other labels. And so let's actually take an issue. Emily messaged me earlier. We needed a better Quokka icon. So she made this issue. We can see here, short description. There's a link to the code. So we can open that up. And while it's doing that, I had an email from her as well to download the new image. So let's do that. So we'll save it to the desktop. And going back in here, it's a small change. I think even a product manager can probably do this one. So updating that to the new icon. So I have two options now. Go into the repo. I can clone this locally, as I normally would. I'll set up my environment. I don't do this often, but that's fine. Or I can use Git dev environments. So I can open this in the browser using Cloud9. I can open it in one of my favorite JetBrains IDEs or Visual Studio Code. For this example, we'll use Visual Studio Code. I can open this on the main branch, or I can create a new branch automatically. So let's do that. We'll call this updating the landing page, and we'll go ahead and create this. What this is going to do now is take the code from that branch and provision a hosted cloud dev environment, but open my local IDE. So this is incredibly cool. If you've ever had to work across runtimes, versions, even languages, and we see this with our own team, moving between that content switching, setting up your node, it's just painful. This gets you in there with everything you need. It's now going to connect over SSH to the remote host. And with that, I have the entire project loaded, pre-configured with everything I need to actually run it on my local machine. So as expected, I have the app here. This is a React app, so I'll go npm run start, as you traditionally would. And what's really cool is we use port forwarding. So even though this is a remote environment, it's actually going to open on my local browser, localhost 3000, and I can do my traditional React development like I always would. And so while that's building, let me grab the local image I have, and I'm going to drop that into the VS Code editor, and we'll see the two. So on the left, we have the current website, and we have the new image that Emily would like to use. I think it's pretty good. So going into the app.tsx, all I have to do is update the import. And as you would expect if you've done any React development, I'll hit save, it'll compile, and instantly I'll see the preview. So this looks good to me. What I'm going to do now is I'll git commit it, git push it. But you'll notice at no point have I set up Git credentials. I haven't had to deal with personal access tokens or anything. It works for me out of the box or out of the container. And so we'll go back to Code Catalyst, view our branches. And as expected, there's the updating landing page. Mm-hmm. And my last step here, the commit came through, thankfully. And my last step is to open a pull request. So we support common sort of modern development flows like that with pull requests. I'll assign this to Emily. I'm going to make Adam optional. If you've worked with him, you can't count on that. Anyway, pull request title, new landing page, and I can leave a short description and something like that for the team to see. Emily will get notified, and I'll be able to, and she'll be able to merge this in maybe after the talk. Small change. I can see the diff there. So that's great. So I've created the pull request. Let me show you the other side of this, of receiving a pull request assignment. So Emily made one earlier today about adding an about section. I'll click into that. And there's a couple changes that were made, which we can see. First is updating our workflow. This actually comes with a non-pull request workflow as well, and we've updated to use our auto test report discovery. So that should be a nice feature going forward. And there's this about component that's going to get added. You'll notice on the right, there's also a success workflow that's been run. So let's click into that. So this is, as I mentioned, set to run on pull requests made against main. It's running a single stage of build and test, kind of a sanity check of the code. And what's really cool is I open that up, I'll see it ran multiple stages, but it also has reports. And clicking into this, I can actually see this. So Code Catalyst comes built in with test report visualization, supporting a lot of the most popular formats. You can set success criteria or whatever your policies are, and you never have to leave your tool. Your developers can see if their pull request passed or if they failed, and you're on your own until you need help, and then you can just ask and they come in. So I'll approve this. Looks great. And the last step is merging. We have multiple options. This project is set up to use squash and merge, so I'll use that merge strategy. I could use fast forward as well. And then I'm going to delete this branch during that process. And with that, we'll merge this in. And then, as I'd mentioned earlier, you may recall, there was an on push to main. What this is doing is actually making that push to main. So let's go check that out. So multiple branches with workflows. Go down to the main one. We'll see it's running, luckily as expected. And then we'll check in. So this is going to take a minute or two to build, and it will deploy. And there you go. We've made a change, merged it in, and pushing it up. Last thing I wanted to show you is we've been working really hard with JetBrains. We know how beloved their IDEs are and how great it is for different languages. And they have a product called JetBrains Gateway. And what's super cool about this is you can actually access Code Catalyst directly from your desktop. You never actually have to go to the browser. So you can see spaces, you can see your projects, you can launch new dev environments, or you can hop back into one you're running. And it's anticlimactic in that it's just going to work. It's going to open up your IDE, and you're going to have your code as you would expect. But the friction is gone of having to set up what node version should I be running, what job, all that is gone. So yeah, this will stand up in IntelliJ. As expected, it's pulling down this is a Java project specifically, where obviously IntelliJ really shines. And with that, you're back in. So that's a look at Code Catalyst, how you can use projects to work with your team, but also how you can use dev environments to really facilitate moving across those projects and just getting into that flow a little bit more.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks, Kyle. Can we get a hand for Kyle?
Thank you.
Muito interessante, né? Code Catalyst é uma ferramenta bem completa para todo o ciclo de vida de desenvolvimento. Então, imagina só, ali no IntelliJ, você com o plugin do Code Catalyst, que você tem acesso ali aos seus ambientes, código-fonte, as issues ali do Gira, toda a parte ali de pull requests, merges, etc. Então, ao invés de utilizar várias ferramentas e ter que fazer elas todas trabalharem em sincronia, com uma só, fica meio que resolvido o problema. Então, acho que vale a pena experimentar, aí tem um potencial bem bacana aí o Code Catalyst. Agora vamos ver aqui o Amazon Code Whisperer. É uma ferramenta de autocomplete de código. Então ela é bem interessante porque é baseada ali em os repositórios ali da comunidade de open source. Então imagina que a ferramenta tem acesso a tudo que está público pelo mundo e usa isso como base para gerar código como sugestão para você completar ali aquele código que você está escrevendo. Então, você dá um início ali, colocando um comentário, por exemplo, quero uma função que faz isso, isso e aquilo. Aí ele já traz sugestões de código para a sua função. É bem interessante, vamos conferir.
Our dream is that you never have to copy and paste code ever again. You'll simply write what you want to do in natural language, and then Code Whisperer will provide you with the best possible solution in code. This machine learning powered service makes coding delightful by generating code recommendations based on existing code and developer comments. Instead of thinking like a machine and spending time translating your thoughts into code that will eventually compile, you can simply write a comment about what you want to do, and Code Whisperer will auto-generate code based on your intent that matches your personal patterns and style. But here's my favorite part, Adam. If the code recommendation is similar to a piece of code used in the training data, Code Whisperer provides a code reference and includes the open source license the original author utilized, empowering you to write code responsibly. You can accept the top recommendation, view more recommendations, or continue writing your code from scratch, all in your IDE. Amazon Code Whisperer is currently in public preview. It's available through the AWS IDE Toolkit and is enabled in VS Code, JetBrains, AWS Cloud9, and the AWS Lambda console. It currently supports some of your favorite languages, Python, Java, and of course, JavaScript. This week, we also added in TypeScript and C#. Yeah.
I'm guessing that was TypeScript, but it might be C#, and we could clap for both of them. So let's talk about some key features for the service. So Code Whisperers is all about accelerating developer productivity by giving you recommendations, like it's suggesting code for you. And it works in these different languages, And it's not just writing like one function or one little snippet or one line. You can write whole blocks of code or whole function, which is pretty neat. One thing that's really cool about CodeWhisperer is it has unmatched support for AWS APIs. We've worked really hard to make sure that it has fantastic experience with AWS APIs. All the popular ones you know and love, EC2 and Lambda and S3, and give you really high quality recommendations so you can work faster, accept the recommendation hopefully, and work faster. And then this one is absolutely unique and incredibly important, which is a responsible use of AI and ML. Now, we trained this thing on a combination of open source API and the code that powers Amazon. Open source code and the code that powers Amazon. And to make sure you, when you use this, can use it responsibly, we provide what Emily mentioned, which is a code reference. I'm going to show you that in a minute. The feature is called Reference Tracker, and it will detect any time that code that's generated, remember it's not copy and pasted, it's being generated, but if it's similar enough, we'll give you a recommendation so you are informed. You know if you want to use it or not. You can decide if you want to use it or not. You'll know what the license is and what repo it came from. We also have a functionality there to avoid bias, to remove any code recommendations that might be biased or unfair. And there's also a security capability, which uses a combination of code guru and automated reasoning, so you can scan your code and identify security vulnerabilities and improve your code quality. Okay, I'm going to do a demo. So let's say you're in Java and you're going to implement an MD5 hash function. And I don't remember exactly how to do that. So what I do is I write here a comment that describes what I want. And CodeWhisperer pops up options for method signatures that I can just flip through with my arrow keys. I like that one. And now it's going to suggest bodies for that method, which is pretty cool. So see, it's got a couple here. I like this one. And let's go. And that's pretty cool. It just wrote all the code, suggested all the code to provide MD5 hash for me, utility for me. Let me show you another one. So now let's say we need to find out if a string is a valid regular expression. I had to look this up when I was preparing because I didn't remember. So I put my comment in like I need to, and it's just one parameter, which is regular expression. This one returns a bool. That's cool. Now it's generating code for me. I like that second one. That's actually pretty straightforward. There's some helper function I didn't know about. But now look what I'm going to do. I'm going to have CodeWhisperer write tests for me. CodeWhisperer is going to generate unit tests. It's going to take it a second. We're going to scroll down, and it's going to generate unit tests that exercise this method. Is that cool or what?
It's very cool.
Pretty cool.
Bem interessante, né? Não é só uma sugestão de trechos pequenos, mas de funções inteiras, né? E de todos os testes necessários para aquela função. Então, isso pode ajudar muito no dia a dia para que os desenvolvedores não precisem mais ficar tanto pesquisando no Google como implementar funções conhecidas e sim utilizar a própria ferramenta que já traz as sugestões com a fonte, o tipo ali de licença, né? E aí você toma a decisão se quer utilizar ou se não quer utilizar. Bem interessante. Agora vamos falar sobre o Application Composer. Essa ferramenta é bem interessante. Para quem já utilizou Draw.io, é bem parecida, né? Você tem ali os componentes para montar o desenho da sua arquitetura, mas com a grande vantagem que o Application Composer já vai montando ali o YAML do seu IAC para você provisionar a sua infraestrutura. Ele tem todos os componentes ali serverless, né, da AWS. Então, se você for montar uma arquiteturazinha 100% serverless, você consegue fazer pelo Application Composer. Então, facilita demais ali para os desenvolvedores que não estão tão habituados, né, a provisionar uma infraestrutura com Lambda, Step Function, Event Bridge, API Gateway, etc. Então, com o Application Composer agora vai ficar mais fácil. Então, acho que é uma tentativa ali da AWS de expandir a utilização dos recursos serverless da AWS. Vamos conferir.
So I'm pleased that we announced this morning in Werner's keynote a new product called AWS Application Composer, available in preview, designed to make all this easier for serverless applications. It's a visual serverless application composer using our various AWS services, configuring them, and backing you up with deployment-ready infrastructure as code. So let me tell you a little more about it. So the first thing you start with is a visual canvas, and this lets you drag and drop serverless resources onto the canvas. You can connect them and quickly create serverless applications just in minutes. You can start from scratch, or you can load an existing ISC file, and Application Composer will visualize it for you so you can make sense of, well, what is this project that I'm dropping into? How have they architected this thing? It does configure the services for you, which is really cool, with smart default settings, connections between the services. It will generate both AWS CloudFormation and AWS SAM artifacts, which is very cool. Oh, and this is really neat. It does this in real time, like your architecture in real time. So the visual representation you see is in sync with the IAC in the file. So you can like whiteboard and share ideas, and like we can drag and drop and look at things, and the IAC code is being updated as we work through it. Again, you can import existing CloudFormation or SAM templates, which is pretty cool. And it's got all the serverless functions you like, AWS Lambda, step functions, event bridge, really anything supported by CloudFormation will work in there, which is pretty cool. Okay, should we do a demo?
Yes.
Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so here we go. You start with two options. You can start from scratch or create a new one. We're going to create a new one. On the right is the visual canvas, and the right is the IAC file, just with an editor. So the first thing we're going to add, oh, but it's small, is a bucket. We add the bucket, and you see all the IAC code generated. There's some configuration option on the right that come up visually that we can click into. For example, block public access is right there. And now we can add a Lambda function and connect the two. So this would be like a trigger on the bucket, create something, kick off the function, and you see the event is added there, line 44. We can also flip it around and change the order. For example, if our function we're writing into a bucket, and there you go, it'll change that IAC in that part. So it's pretty neat. This is all happening interactively. It's a great way to learn also. Here we're going to add a state machine connected to an event rule out of Event Bridge and wire those up, and then also add a REST API. And the REST API, without writing any code, is going to have default paths and responses, as well as status codes. And you end up with like a really rich, useful, deployable best practices IAC file. So that's, we're super excited about that. It seems like really exciting for both skilled users, for users that are learning, people that are new to project, all work and build together.
Bem interessante, né? Imagina só o quanto a gente vai usar mais agora os recursos serverless com o Application Composer. Acho que rola uma certa restrição hoje em dia. Muitos desenvolvedores que estão habituados ali a fazer microserviços em Java, containerizados, né? Kubernetes, por exemplo, e não sabem ali trabalhar com IAC para provisionar uma arquitetura serverless com esses recursos aí do exemplo, né, que foi dado no vídeo. Então, a tendência é continuar sempre fazendo no formato que a pessoa já sabe trabalhar. E isso, o Application Composer vai trazer essa facilidade, porque ele já monta ali o IAC. E eu acredito que, aos poucos, a gente vai começar a formar novos tipos de profissionais de back-end que conhecem mais do parque tecnológico serverless disponível nas clouds públicas em geral, né? No caso da AWS, o Application Composer vai trazer um pouco dessa aceleração. Antes da próxima novidade, vamos passar aqui pelo conceito de GraphQL. Então, GraphQL é uma abordagem ali para se fazer queries num formato um pouco diferente, né? Ao invés de selects, a gente tem ali os filtros no formato de JSON, similar ao que a gente tem ali para APIs REST, por exemplo, né? Então, essa animação aí ilustra bem o que pode ser feito, né? Quando eu não preciso de todos os dados que vêm numa requisição, num GET de uma API, por exemplo, eu posso passar quais são os parâmetros que me interessam. principais que eu quero para a minha aplicação de front-end, por exemplo. E aí o GraphQL já faz essa tratativa para você ter só os dados que te interessam. Então, tem uma série de técnicas ali para fazer os filtros, trafegar menos dados, facilitar o desenvolvimento do front, que aí seu objeto vai ficar mais enxutinho. Então, isso acaba trazendo aí alguns benefícios. Bom, tendo em vista o conceito, né, agora a gente vai ver aqui as novidades do AppSync, que é uma aplicação da AWS para facilitar conexões entre sistemas utilizando GraphQL. Bora lá.
Absolutely. GraphQL actually simplifies API architectures, making it easier for front-end developers to build apps on top of data. With GraphQL, front-end developers can get unified access to fetch just the data that they need from multiple data sources with a single API call. With managed GraphQL, work like complex server setup, configuration, patching, and operations goes away, giving teams GraphQL goodness without all the extra work.
So with that inspiration, we have a great product for that, which is a managed GraphQL service called AppSync. And it gives you a single data API that connects to all the different microservices and backend resources you want to just give something really elegant for front-end devs to work with. It's cool. It works real time and has a pub/sub API, and it also has an offline data sync capability because, I don't know about you, but my phone is not always connected, and it's really nice when the app still works. And it's fully serverless. We manage it, we do the auto-scaling, and we provide the observability. And this week, or I think it was last week, we announced JavaScript support inside the GraphQL backend, so you can write logic in the API tier that uses the same language that your front-end teams are working with and familiar with. So we're really excited about this in general, this offering for front-end web and mobile developers with AppSync. They can create apps faster, build really performant apps. There's built-in security and observability with everything you expect from AWS, like CloudWatch, X-Ray, and AWS WAF support.
Muito bem, então agora tem suportear JavaScript. Muito bacana, acho que é uma aplicação que pode facilitar ali no dia a dia, fazer a gestão ali dos recursos que se interagem via GraphQL. E agora vamos ver aqui as novidades do Amazon Amplify. Amplify é uma ferramenta de web hosting, né? E a AWS lançou um novo recurso agora bem interessante. Vamos checar.
But I thought I would also step back and sort of provide just like an overview of like the landscape and then go in deep in some new areas. So overall, the landscape for front-end developer experience in AWS, we have this sort of broad product offering. When developers want to just host a website and they want to take their favorite framework like Next.js or React or Vue, Amplify hosting makes it really, really easy. You literally just connect it to your Git repo and it will set up a pipeline and deploy a website for you in AWS. Really, really nice. Say you want to like flesh out the back end you're going to need to make that website go. Developers can use, to make those nice interactive features, developers can use Amplify Studio and our CLI tool, Amplify CLI tool, to create the necessary backend, sort of stub it out, and by just providing the data model. And then as they build out the UI and want to add like forms and all these cool components that connect to cloud services and have data and wire that all up, Amplify Studio makes that easy. And then finally, as they connect their app and their UI to more cloud service and add more capability from the cloud, Amplify libraries, including like a Swift library for AWS, which is really cool, and UI components make that super easy. So the idea is to have a whole portfolio of services that work the way front-end web developers want to work and mobile developers want to work and help them innovate. And one of the things we released in the last 2 weeks is hosting for something new called Next.js 13, which includes something called server-side rendering. So I had to dive into this, and I want to understand, why is server-side rendering a big deal? What is this, and why is it important? So over the last 10 years, web development's got incredibly powerful with these like libraries and frameworks and things like React and Angular, and it cut down on server-side round trips, which is cool, and we had a lot of richness in our activity. But there was a downside. And then as we get these like ever-increasing JavaScript bundle sizes, which made things, it's like slow to load, slow to parse, and opaque to search crawlers too. Like, and it's not good if your web experience can't really be searched very well by search engines. So server-side rendering offloads that rendering of the popular content to the server, and then it caches it to the edge. Really cool, but those are like cloud things, right? Like those are not client-side things, those are cloud things. So what's neat about Next.js and our support for Next.js support Amplify hosting is we offer SSR support with no extra work for developers. They just use Next.js. If they want to add functionality like server-side JavaScript, it'll just run in AWS, and it makes the whole thing load faster, pre-renders popular content using the power of the cloud, and delivers a better web experience for end users. So we just launched this, very excited about this. And I think what we should do is a demo.
I would love that.
Invite one of the product managers up. Sound good? We like demos here, right? Okay. Renee, come on out, Renee. Let's have Renee come up and give us a demo. Thanks.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hey. Yeah, I'm so excited to show you something really, really cool around web hosting. So let's build our Next.js application. We're going to start by deploying a Next.js starter app as like the basis to build out our app, right? And here's just a brief look at what the code for it looks like. Now, deploying Next.js apps on AWS is zero configuration using Amplify hosting. Let's visit the Amplify console here to get started. And Amplify offers a Git-based workflow for all of these deployment mechanisms. So once I connect the Git branch to Amplify, Amplify handles the rest. All build settings are automatically detected. So all I really need to do is like click next, 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 done, and then bam, it's ready to go. And so in a matter of minutes, my app will be fully deployed on infrastructure that is also fully managed. I get my app, its pages, API routes, hosted on a CDN with a global network of 400+ points of presence.
Olha lá, então suporte agora Next.js no Amazon Amplify, bem bacana. Conclusões, né? Então a gente teve aqui muito foco em low code, Mendix, né? Aplicação ali da Siemens para desenvolvimento de aplicações web e mobile, a ferramenta low code, o Code Catalyst tem ali os blueprints, né? Que são templates para acelerar a criação dos seus projetos, então faz com que o desenvolvedor tenha que desenvolver menos código, já vai ter uma base pronta. O Code Whisperer é uma ferramenta de autocomplete, traz sugestões de código para você preencher ali, né, escrever sua função. O Application Compose já faz o código da parte do IAC. O AppSync, né, é uma ferramenta ali baseada para gerenciamento ali de GraphQL, para facilitar as integrações entre aplicações, e o GraphQL tem um pouco essa visão de minimizar a quantidade de código necessário, porque você filtra só os dados necessários. Então, praticamente tudo que teve de novo ali na parte de DevEx, né, da AWS ou de parceiros da AWS, foi bastante focado em fazer com que o desenvolvedor não precise escrever tanto código. E a frase mais ouvida, Fully Managed Infrastructure, ou então We Manage It. Cada vez mais a AWS gerenciando a infraestrutura das suas aplicações para você não precisar se preocupar com isso, né? Então, essas aplicações aqui de DevEx, todas elas são serverless, né? Você não precisa se preocupar em instanciar, por exemplo, o Code Catalyst dentro da sua infraestrutura e gerenciar essa infraestrutura. Não, é uma aplicação que você utiliza e a própria AWS gerencia a infraestrutura. Então é isso, muito obrigado aí por nos acompanhar nesse capítulo de DevEx e até mais.